link is live and we're streaming it right now on our website.
One way to get everybody quiet.
That's usually more direction to my report than anybody.
Yeah. That worked for me.
What do you mean I have to work for each?
Good afternoon. My name is Frederick Lungmeyer, Director of Public Relations for the Office of the State Attorney for the First Judicial Circuit. Momentarily, Ms. Ginger Bowden-Madden, State Attorney for the First Judicial Circuit, will come forward to give a brief press conference regarding former contractor Matthew Banks. At the conclusion of her speech, there will be a brief opportunity for a few questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Between the months of May 2019 and December of 2022, Matthew Banks, a local contractor, personally and through his business, Banks Construction, engaged in a pattern of criminal activity and stole over $5 million in funds, materials, and services from more than 150 victims. Yesterday, Matthew Banks was indicted by an Escambia County Grand Jury, charging him with racketeering, aggravated white-collar crime, organized fraud, and tampering with evidence. Counts 1 and 3 are first-degree felonies, punishable by up to 30 years in prison. Counts 4 is a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 5. Because of the magnitude and complexity of the crimes alleged, I appointed Special Prosecutor Russ Edgar to handle the investigation and prosecution of the complaints against Mr. Banks. Over the last 6 months, Assistant State Attorney Edgar, along with his team of assistants, investigators, and support staff, have interviewed over 100 witnesses, sifted through tens and thousands of documents and financial records, and assisted in the execution of 3 search warrants. Yesterday's indictment, however, is the result of a tireless effort by multiple agencies, the collaboration and the cooperation of all to dot every I and cross every T. My sincere appreciation to Chief Randall, the Pensacola Police Department, the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, the Florida Department of Agriculture, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and the Florida Department of Financial Services Division of Investigation and Forensic Services. And finally, I want to thank the media and the public for your patience and your trust over these last many months as you anxiously and persistently attempted to seek additional information. We promised you it was forthcoming. Now I'd like to give Mr. Edgar an opportunity to make a few comments, and then I'll open up the floor to any questions.
Thank you. The grand jury presented and charged Mr. Banks with 4 crimes. The first alleging that he conducted Banks Construction, LLC, in an unlawful manner by committing incidents involving theft of money and funds from homeowners and business owners, by committing theft of payroll monies from his employees, committing theft of labor services and supplies from material suppliers, forgery of building permit applications, workers' compensation fraud, and insurance fraud. And finally, false filings of documents with the Secretary of State concerning corporate entities. Grand jury further charged Mr. Banks in count 2 with aggravated white-collar crime, which follows from count 1 in that the incidents resulted in losses of substantial sums of money, over $7 million, to multiple victims. And then count 3 alleges that the process involving these incidents, the commission of these incidents, the grand jury alleged, was a result of a systematic scheme to defraud not only the property owners, the homeowners, and the business owners, and the material men and the suppliers, and the employees, and other people, but also a systematic effort to defraud insurance companies and workers' comp carriers. The 4th count alleges that Mr. Banks tampered with evidence. That is, that knowing that an investigation was pending, a court proceeding was pending into this matter, Mr. Banks removed or concealed records that he's required to keep by law as a contractor. The grand jury heard from multiple witnesses and reviewed considerable amounts of documents and very deliberative in their process, and they met on multiple occasions in making this decision. And we're continuing to investigate this matter, and we will continue to receive any information that the public would like to share with us concerning these offenses and anything that they think are potential offenses that we should further examine and investigate. Any questions?
Do you expect any other arrests or indictments related to this case?
Well, I really can't comment on that. Investigation of this and other related matters is continuing. Yes,
Is his brother-in-law, Jesse Lacoste, also part of this investigation in any way?
he is under investigation.
Can you go into details about?
No. I'll leave that for another day.
Is Mr. Banks still in jail?
I don't know.
Mr. Banks has bonded out
Okay.
of jail.
Could we get your thoughts on that, Ginger? Do you mind?
Well, after the indictment was handed down, the judge set a bond for $150,000. Mr. Banks' attorney had offered to turn him in at a time if and when that happened, and it did. He was not a flight risk. This was a nonviolent crime. We offered to have him turn himself in by a time certain, which he did. He posted his bond, and then he was released.
And then I don't know if you could step up to the podium or whoever's talking, but I just had another question. You mentioned that there's just dozens of victims in this case. Over $7 million was stolen. I mean, what part of this, or is there any effort to kind of get that money back, and is there anything you want to say to the victims?
Well, I'll let you answer the question, and then I'll make my comment.
The victims are entitled, if he's convicted, to restitution for damages. Restitution is available if the defendant has the assets and the ability to pay. He's filed for bankruptcy protection through his company. There is a fund that the state has for victims of construction fraud and related crimes, but that fund is limited in amounts that would nowhere near approach restitution that would be sought in this case for all of the alleged victims. So is there a chance that they will get their money back? There is a chance, but it is very unlikely that the people that lost their money will ever be made fully whole. And not just fully whole financially, but in the stories we heard, they have many grievances about how they were affected by this. And that is a matter of record in their complaints. And we're having to deal with that through our victim advocates and others.
My comments to that would be, first of all, it is such an awful thing that happened to these homeowners. Many of them have lost their life savings. They've been left with their residences uninhabitable. What I want to assure the victims in this case of is that we will do whatever we can do. Again, dot every I and cross every T to try to recover as much as we can and make them as whole as we can. At the end of the day, whether they receive full restitution, some restitution, no restitution, we will do our best to ensure that justice is served.
Any of Mr. Banks' assets, have they been seized?
Mr. Banks's personal assets are a matter that we're looking at now, and we can't comment on that further. I would say that we will persist in every effort to try to recover any monies that we can for the alleged victims in this case. Whether or not that is something that is existing law provides, or maybe perhaps laws that could be changed to provide for these victims.
Has Mr. Banks been cooperative? Has he been interviewed, or?
I really shouldn't comment on that.
Let me make one additional comment. I think for many months, up to 8, 9 months, I don't recall how long ago, but there's been a lot of discussion locally in the media among different concerned citizen groups about the process of filing complaints, contractor complaints, construction complaints, and having those move through the different agencies to be resolved. I do believe that we're on the right path locally as a group and as a collaborative effort of all of the agencies and the home building industry in streamlining that process so that going forward, these things, when there are complaints, legitimate complaints to be pursued, we'll be able to do that much more expeditiously. And I know that's one thing that Mr. Edgar and I have discussed, ways that we could possibly urge some changes in the laws to make that a more expeditious and efficient process.
Are the cases that he's been charged with, are those exclusively in Escambia County, or are some of them also in Santa Rosa or Okaloosa?
He's been charged with conducting an affairs of his enterprise, partly in Escambia County, largely, but also in other counties. Similarly, he's been charged with committing the crimes of aggravated white-collar crime, largely in Escambia County, but also in other counties. The law provides that if you commit a crime partly in one county, you may allege and show proof of commission of crimes in other counties. So he is charged in multiple counties, and in 3 of these counts.
And what's the next step here?
Initial
The
appearance.
investigation?
Well, either initial appearance, depending, or arraignment.
And is there any, is there going to be an announcement of no process in the current fraud charge he has, or would that be seen through as deemed necessary by the attorneys and judge?
Take that.
Well, that will not be would that be subsumed by this most recent indictment of these most recent charges?
We will move to consolidate that for trial in this case and any other charges that might be brought against Mr. Bank, so we don't have multiple trials. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If you could just say and spell your name, sir, just so we have it on record.
Russell Edgar, RussellEdgar,
And your title?
Assistant State Attorney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. These guys' hands over there.